Right, so let's talk about it. Whenever there is a controversial incident, I am always here to talk about it in Formula One because in truth, I enjoy talking about it. I enjoy dissecting these incidents and explaining why the stewards did a certain thing, why drivers did a certain thing, what's kind of gone on really. And the big main controversial incident, of course, during the Spanish Grand Prix was how the hell did Nico Hülkenberg manage to get P5 in that car? I mean, that was an incredible result in the Sauber. Oh, right, you want to talk about Verstappen and Russell. Okay, let's do it. I mean, for me, there isn't a controversy here in the terms of there being a penalty or not a penalty. There's clearly got to be a penalty here for Verstappen. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. The guy has messed up here. He's done something wrong. He's done something incredibly intentional and dangerous. There is no two ways about that. The controversy comes from the penalty he got and perhaps a different penalty that he should have got. Nico Rosberg was saying that he should have been black flagged for this. He ended up getting a 10-second penalty that was applied after his time was taken at the end of the race, dropping him down from, P5 down to P10. So, what happened? Well, it's all to do with the restart. So basically, in the closing stages of the race, Kimi Antonelli's Mercedes decided to stop working, unfortunately. A mechanical retirement, the second one that he has had in 3 Grand Prix, the third in a row for Mercedes power as well, if you include Fernando Alonso's in Monaco last weekend. It's not a good run for the Mercedes power units, but the important thing is for this race is that it brought out the full safety car. Now, all of the drivers pretty much at this point had completed their final pit stops, but the fact that the field was going to be bunched up again with just a few laps remaining meant that everybody jumped the gun. Everybody pulled the trigger on a late pit stops for the majority of the field. Soft tyres, the softest, the least durable, but the fastest, crucially, over 1 lap. The tyres that they, of course, use in qualifying and were good for about 10-15 laps or so in the race, as most drivers started the race on soft tyres and went about that far into the Grand Prix. So they could easily make it to the end of the race on that. But the problem for Max Verstappen was, at this point, is that he didn't actually have any soft tyres available to him. Unfortunately, he only had hards. He questioned the decision by his team, but he basically got told, well, it's the only option we've got. We need to put some new tyres on, and these are the only ones that are available. Now, the hard tyres, of course, are more durable, but their peak performance, their potential performance is a lot less. So in theory, they are slower over 1 lap, and they are also, crucially, a lot harder and more difficult to heat up, to get the temperature into, even though it was boiling today in Spain for the Spanish Grand Prix. He struggled to get the temperature in them, and at the restart, he got an absolute tank slapper and a half coming out of the final corner when applying the throttle. This allowed Charles Leclerc to get past. There was a bit of contact between the two of them. That incident was under investigation by the stewards, but they have taken no further action. It has now been confirmed, and that's the right decision in my opinion. You know, it's just one of the things. You've got a very, very quick car and a much slower car, one struggling. Contact sometimes does happen like that, even with these professional Formula One drivers. But what was crucial for the incident that was coming up, the one that eventually led to Verstappen getting a penalty, well, his reaction to the incident anyway, I should say, was the fact that George Russell was closing in on Max Verstappen. He took the opportunity to follow Charles Leclerc's kind of wake and try and get through him. He used the slipstream down the straight to get pretty much perfectly alongside with Verstappen. Verstappen was marginally ahead going into the first braking zone of turn 1, but there wasn't a lot between them. Now, the rules state, as we know from quite a few incidents like this in Formula 1 in recent times, where it's kind of 50-50, 6-1, half a dozen the other for who is actually winning the right to the corner, as the phrase is. One of the rules with this is the fact that you have to be at least with your front wing alongside the rear view mirrors of your opponent. Now, George Russell was pretty much perfectly alongside, so he was in fact close enough to win the right for the corner. He could have took that, and he chose to take that. But the problem was that that slipstream that helped him along the straight is actually a bad thing for him going through turn 1, because of course now you want downforce rather than a reduction in drag. He was behind Charles Leclerc. He was unstable because of that, because of the dirty air effect that I've covered extensively here on the channel many times in the past, and he got unsettled. He made contact with Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen, feeling that contact, then decided to bail out of the first corner. He took to the escape road, and he eventually retook that 4th place on the road. Now, at that point, this is what Red Bull thought. Red Bull thought that they should have given the place back, that because Verstappen took to the escape road and therefore retained the position because of that he should have given the place back. But I disagree with that. I think Red Bull actually made the wrong call on this one. Maybe they were just trying to be a bit safe. Maybe they wanted to not risk getting a penalty, which ironically they did get one, but for a very different reason. Maybe there was some thinking with that, just trying to be better safe than sorry. Better to give up P4, then goes all those positions and go down to the tail end of the points, or even potentially outside of the points as well. Remember, George Russell, he got a drive-through penalty in Monaco. Okay, very different circumstances, of course, but he got a drive-through penalty in Monaco for overtaking illegally off the track. And Red Bull basically interpreted that incident as Max Verstappen retaining his position by illegally keeping it off the track. But because George Russell was not in control of his car at that time, Max Verstappen did nothing wrong at that time. And I believe very strongly that Red Bull made the incorrect call by advising Max Verstappen to give up the place to George Russell. Now, in Verstappen's mind, and in actuality in this case, he was 100% in the right. He did nothing wrong. Why is he being told by his team to give up the position? What is going on here? He's competed in this race. It is hot. It has been a difficult race for him. He's losing positions now. He's gone from P3 down to P4. Now you're telling me to give up P4? You're telling me I'm going to be P5 at best? No, I'm not happy with that. And then the red mist descended. He did try to let George Russell through at first, but then through, I believe it is turn 5 at Circuit de Catalunya, the left-hander at the start of the second sector, he basically just drove into George Russell while pretending to give him the place back. And that earned him a 10-second penalty. He deliberately used his car as a weapon to make a point, and he crashed into him deliberately, and he got a 10-second penalty for this. Now, Nico Rosberg said that because this is obvious dangerous driving, that Verstappen should be black flagged. He should be disqualified, thrown out of the race completely. I think that's a bit strong, to be honest. I mean, you can't do more than that, other than giving him like a race ban for the next race or something like that, or like 100 penalty points on his FIA license or something like that. You know, to be honest, I think in context, and there's not many incidents I can think of that are like this. The only incident that really jumps to mind, at least in recent times, or recent-ish times, is 8 years ago now. By the way, 2017 was 8 years ago. That's making me feel old. But basically, the incident I'm talking about with that one that was kind of similar to this one in a sense was Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton. This was under safety car period. Hamilton basically broke very sharply into one of the corners, and he was the leader of the race, and he had the right to do that. Vettel, though, took exception to it, accused him of brake checking, then turned to go alongside Hamilton and just bumped him. And now it was very low speed by Formula One standards, but he still used his car as a weapon. And I would argue that what Vettel did in that sense at that time was actually less severe than Max Verstappen today. Now, this was 8 years ago. Formula One has changed, but you know, the speed of the incident was probably a little less than what we saw today, and it was also under safety car too. This was under green flag running. I don't know if that makes it better or worse from Vettel's point of view. Maybe worse actually from Vettel's point of view. And he ended up getting a 10-second stop go. Not a 10-second if you pit stop, you got to serve it then, or we'll add it onto your race time. Not one of those penalties. An actual come into the pits, don't change your tyres, stop for 10 seconds, then get going again. So I think 10 seconds is a bit light, to be honest, but I know this shouldn't come into the thinking of it, because the stewards say that we don't punish them based on the result, if you know what I mean. We punish them based on the incident itself. So what I mean by that is that the fact that Verstappen lost 5 places and he lost 9 championship points as a result of this incident, I think that in itself is probably appropriate. Personally, that's my opinion. But in the grand scheme of things, in most races, a 10-second penalty for this, I think it seems a little light, I'll be honest. But then again, the more recent incidents, the ones in Mexico, for example, where Verstappen did get a penalty, I think he got 2 10-second penalties, didn't he, for those. So if you compare it to that, then perhaps this is fair. But, you know, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, I've had a quick look on Twitter just to check over the videos and stuff like that, just to make sure I've got all the facts straight. But there are a lot of people out there that are trying to defend Verstappen and say that he did nothing wrong in this. And I don't know how you can not say that. I don't know how you can say that, to be honest, personally. That's just my opinion. I know there's quite a few Verstappen fans on here, and Hell, some of you guys might not agree with me, but, you know, I really do think this is a slam dunk 10-second penalty minimum. It could have been more. It could have been more. But the fact that he lost all those points, goes down to 10th place in the race, I think, given what he did, I think that's probably about right, to be honest. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if this was a 20-second penalty. You know, effectively a drive-through penalty, but added on as a race time for that. So that's my kind of opinion on it, guys. That's why Verstappen got a penalty. I just watched the interview as well after the race with Max Verstappen, and yeah, he's quite fuming, to say the least. He is not happy. He's actually, I mean, again, a bit of emotion coming in this one, I'm sure, but he did basically concede the title. And the one who was doing the interview was Rachel Brooks from Sky Sports, and she basically kind of posed the question of basically like, well, you know, this is a real detriment to your championship challenge this season. And Verstappen just said, if we even had a championship chance, even if we had an opportunity to win the championship, because, you know, now, because of this, what is he? He's coming up to 50 points behind the leaders. He's 40 odd points behind Piastri, I believe, after this. So it's a big deficit now to overcome. It's not insurmountable, but it's getting close. You know, a few more 1-2s for McLaren, regardless of where Max Verstappen finishes in those races. It's going to go to one of the papaya drivers at that point. I really do think when it gets to over 50 points, at that point you have to be like, you know, you're not coming back from this. That's just too big of a gap. With how reliable the McLarens are, with how fast they are. So, unfortunately, this incident, I think, almost, I won't write him off completely just yet, but I think this has almost ended Verstappen's chance of winning a world championship this season. I think he's going to stop on 4 for a little while yet. I think he's going to get some more in the future, though. A driver as good as him does not stay down for very long. But yeah, this is unfortunately a very shameful incident for Verstappen. Michael Schumacher, I know this is a long video already, guys, I do apologise, but I just want to get my thoughts out there about this. The great Michael Schumacher used to always say, I've got one mistake in me a year. That today was my mistake. I remember he said that after he crashed out of the 1999 Canadian Grand Prix. Verstappen seems to have one meltdown in him a year. Not necessarily just a driving mistake, but he just completely loses his cool and does something that is completely uncalled for, and unfortunately he's very immature. You know, I was singing his praises before now. You know, I really was, in terms of the driving performances he's been putting in this season, but he's really let himself down today. But he'll dust himself off, he'll pick himself up, he'll be back. But unfortunately, I think in terms of retaining his title this year, it's not over. It's not Roy Orbison time just yet, but it's getting there. But anyway, guys, your thoughts in the comments below. I'm sure you've got plenty of them. Like, share, comment, subscribe as always, and have a fantastic day wherever you're on the world today, guys. And we'll see you very soon for many more videos just like this.